The Galactic Academy Xenobiology lecture hall fell silent as Professor Vexthor, a towering Kralian with 6 eyes and chitinous plating, announced the day's debate topic: the combat limitations of Deathworld species. Alex Chen leaned back in his hover seat, already sensing trouble. As one of only 12 humans attending the prestigious institution, he'd grown accustomed to being the subject of countless academic discussions. What he hadn't anticipated was becoming the target. Humans, proclaimed Zixcor, a Velkari student whose crystalline form refracted the ambient light into aggressive shards, are perhaps the most overrated species in the Coalition. Their homeworld classification as Deathworld 12 is clearly propaganda. Rose Martinez, seated 3 rows behind Alex, felt her jaw tighten. She'd been at the Academy for 2 standard cycles, long enough to recognize the particular brand of arrogance that Zixcor embodied. The Velkari came from a world of eternal twilight, where conflict was resolved through elaborate social hierarchies rather than physical confrontation. Their vaunted endurance, Zixcor continued, warming to his audience, is merely inefficient biology. Their primitive persistence hunting techniques are obsolete in an age of advanced weaponry, and their emotional volatility makes them unstable combat partners. Alex's fingers drummed against his datapad. He'd heard variations of this argument before, usually from species whose worlds had never produced predators larger than a house cat. He was about to respond when Rose's voice cut through the lecture hall like a plasma blade. "You want to test that theory?" Every sensory organ in the room turned toward her. Rose stood, her 5'6" frame somehow commanding the space as effectively as any Kralian warrior. Her dark eyes locked onto Zixcor with an intensity that made several nearby students instinctively edge away. "I beg your pardon." Zixcor's crystalline structure shifted through confused color patterns. "You heard me." Rose descended the steps between the tiered seating, her movements fluid and purposeful. "You're making academic claims about human combat limitations. I'm offering you an opportunity for empirical data." Professor Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or concern. "Ms. Martinez, while I appreciate enthusiasm for hands-on learning, physical altercations are strictly regulated. Combat is permitted in designated training facilities for educational purposes," Rose interrupted, never taking her eyes off Zixcor. Section 7, Paragraph 12 of the Academy Combat Protocols. "I'm sure our friend here wouldn't want to make claims he can't substantiate." Alex recognized the trap immediately. Rose had just publicly questioned Zixcor's credibility in front of 300 students and 5 faculty members. In Velkari culture, backing down from such a challenge would be social suicide. Zixcor's crystalline body flushed deep crimson. "Very well. Training Arena 3, 1 standard hour." The Academy's training arena could simulate any of 12,000 planetary environments. Rose selected Earth Standard, 1 gravity, 21% oxygen, comfortable humidity. No advantages, no excuses. Word had spread. The observation gallery filled with students from 40 different species, all eager to see the human either validate or demolish her species' reputation. Alex pushed through the crowd to reach Rose in the preparation chamber. "You don't have to do this. Zixcor's an idiot, but he's also been trained in Velkari martial forms since he was a juvenile," Rose finished, checking the safety protocols on her training suit. "I know. I've watched his practice sessions." "Then you know his crystalline structure can deflect kinetic impacts and he's never fought anyone who wasn't playing by Velkari rules." Rose's smile was predatory. "Alex, his entire species evolved in a world without significant predators. They fence. They posture. They've never had to develop the kind of combat instincts that kept our ancestors alive on Earth." The arena floor was a 40-meter circle of adaptive material. Zixcor entered from the opposite side, his form now edged with sharp crystalline protrusions designed to intimidate and wound. He moved through a series of traditional forms, each motion precise and aesthetically perfect. Rose walked to her mark with the casual confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. She didn't stretch. She didn't adopt any formal stance. She simply stood, weight balanced, hands relaxed at her sides. The starting chime sounded. Zixcor launched forward with impressive speed, his crystalline blade arms extending for a textbook opening strike. It would have been devastating against another Velkari. Beginning a complex exchange of parries and ripostes. Rose wasn't there. She'd moved laterally with startling efficiency, not away from the attack but at an angle that put her inside Zixcor's reach before he could adjust. Her elbow struck the junction between his torso and primary arm, not hard enough to seriously injure but precisely placed to disrupt his balance. Zixcor stumbled, confused. This wasn't how combat worked. There was supposed to be an exchange, a dance of attack and counterattack. Rose didn't dance. She flowed. Every movement served multiple purposes. Defense, positioning, and attack compressed into actions that looked almost lazy in their economy. When Zixcor swung, she wasn't where he aimed. When he tried to create distance, she was somehow closer than before. The Velkari's crystalline structure was indeed resistant to blunt force, but Rose wasn't interested in breaking him. She was studying him, learning the patterns in his movement, cataloging the split-second delays between thought and action. 3 minutes into the match, Rose had yet to throw a significant strike. Zixcor was exhausted, his movements growing sloppy, his crystalline form flickering with stress patterns. Then Rose moved. It wasn't flashy. She didn't leap or spin. She simply stepped forward as Zixcor overextended on a desperate lunge, redirected his momentum with minimal effort, and swept his supporting limbs out from under him. The Velkari crashed to the arena floor, and Rose's knee was instantly positioned over his primary neural cluster. Not touching, not needed. Yield, she said quietly. The silence in the observation gallery was absolute. I said yield, Rose repeated, her voice carrying across the arena. Or I can demonstrate exactly how a Deathworld species ends a fight when we stop being polite. I yield. Zixcor's colors flashed submission patterns. I yield! Rose stood and offered her hand, a human gesture of respect that Zixcor hesitantly accepted. As she pulled him up, she spoke loud enough for the gallery to hear. Your martial forms are beautiful. Truly impressive, but they were designed for ritual combat between equals who wanted to prove superiority, not for predators who just wanted you dead. That's the difference between our worlds. We didn't develop fighting techniques to determine social hierarchy. We developed them because the alternative was extinction. She released his hand and turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you lasted longer than most would have. That actually says something good about Velkari training. Alex met her at the arena exit, shaking his head with a mixture of admiration and exasperation. You planned that entire speech beforehand, didn't you? Rose grinned. Alex, I'm human. We're not just good at fighting. We're really, really good at making sure everyone knows we won. Behind them, the observation gallery erupted into conversation. Within an hour, the footage would be circulating through every student's datapad. By the next day, applications from human students to the Galactic Academy would triple. Zixcor would recover, both physically and socially. In time, he'd even become one of humanity's most vocal advocates in the coalition, having learned firsthand the difference between academic theory and empirical reality. But in that moment, as Rose and Alex walked away from the arena, one truth had been permanently established in the minds of 300 witnesses. When humans said Earth was a death world, they weren't bragging, they were warning you.